And then I think the one of the topics that I guess I'm most interested in, maybe this is selfish in me not knowing much about this area, is that you focus a lot of your practice on collaborative divorce.
Hmm.
Why is that? And then what is collaborative divorce?
So, my parents had a pretty terrible divorce, and that's what got me into all of this. I think all of us are personally driven in one way or another. And so, my practice really focuses on what happens to these children after the litigated divorce. And so, what I found whenever I was in law school, I actually got a Dispute Resolution Institute certification, and when I was in undergrad, I was actually a district court mediator. So, I've been in ADR since before I even had a degree. And so I've really tracked ADR, and everything that I found in ADR was all of what my family needed, which was conflict resolution and management skills of how to appropriately diffuse conflict. And then additionally, when I went to law school, I really kind of saw that they were teaching me a lot of things that had a lot of destructive effects on my family. And so the two of those things synthesized together, um, when I was introduced to collaborative family law, I was like, wow, this is exactly what the answer could be for a broken system of family law in many of the states in the country. And I think that it's important for these next generations of children for us to be able to focus on what's happened. Why are we at the lowest marriage rate of all of recorded history? Why do we have, of school shootings, a lot of them are from single parent homes and litigated divorce? Why is the substance abuse and alcohol abuse rate so much higher for children out of litigated and high conflict divorce? And then to think about what that's going to happen, what that's going to cause for the generations to come after that. So if we can be what's called a generational chain breaker, we can start to, reduce what happens to children over time. And that's a really big goal of mine because I find myself to be a pretty strong person. I've done a lot in life. I have 3 different law firms, but what happened during my childhood with my parents, I mean, I still deal with that every day. So does my husband. It's kind of amazing how it really does affect you. And if you start to pay attention, like my husband's family is completely intact, amazing. Honestly, I didn't even know stuff like that existed in America. And so, and he, was really not a part of this industry whenever we met, and now that he has been, when he watches like TV, sitcoms, movies, it's everywhere. Everybody's, every character that you see in a movie where they talk about the divorce in some way, shape, or form is having some issue because of their parents' divorce long term in a new relationship, and you're like, wow, it's very pervasive. And I think that's why I really, am passionate about changing it.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually a couple weeks ago looked into it because I wasn't even aware of if California had the same mechanisms North Carolina does. We
Yeah.
do, in fact, have similar language,
Yeah.
but I have never once, and I've been involved in the family court system now for 4.5 years. Never once have I heard collaborative divorce said
Do
by
you want to
anyone at
know
all.
why? Do you want to know why? Collaborative divorce
Shoot.
never makes it to court. It intersects with family court never. So those people really go on with their lives, and nobody ever knows, anything about what they're doing because it was all completely confidential. They weren't involved with the court. It's kind of amazing. Like I deal with family court almost never when in my personal practice. Now my law firms, we have multiple facets of lots of different things, and in the past I have had lots of interactions with family court, but I almost never have to deal with it now because my clients are settling all of their disputes in my conference room. They never ever see the inside of a courtroom ever through their entire process.
So for our viewers, kind of walk through the process. So someone comes in. I'm guessing a couple or someone reaches out and says, "Hey, we want to settle this. We want to work with this. We want to
Yeah.
keep it out of court." So how does that process work? Do both sides have attorneys? Is it do you hire a mediator? What's the process look like?
So, yes, people reach out now. Before it, the marketing wasn't there for people to be Googling collaborative divorce, right? They were just looking for divorce in general. And then, so we would advertise for divorce in general so people could come to us and understand, so we could build this level of awareness. Now people come directly looking for a healthy divorce, an amicable divorce, how to separate without controversy. That's what people are kind of looking for, a lot more now than ever before. And I think it's because of the great work that we're doing, which is awesome. But so now people are trying to kind of figure out how to stay out of court. And so one or the other client will contact. You can actually, in a lot of states, and again, I'm going to go ahead and give my disclaimer now, which is very important. I am an attorney in the state of North Carolina. I cannot tell anybody about their rights in any other state. I am also not giving any legal advice, even if you do live in the state of North Carolina tonight. So,
it will also be in the description of all the videos.
Awesome. So, I've done so many of these now with the bar and everything. I just is so much better to be very poignant. But so when we're dealing with this, it's an incredibly interesting situation. And in North Carolina, we want to make sure that that everybody is able to have access to a fair system. And if you stay out of court, you have a lot more access to that because you have a lot more control over what you're doing. And so House Bill 186 is the shared parenting bill that we have here in North Carolina. But when someone comes in and they're looking for collaborative family law, they're able to have a joint orientation sometimes. So in a lot of states, as long as you're not giving legal advice, you can sit down with two people and talk to them about process options. So you have essentially 5 paths you can go through litigate in North Carolina: litigation, mediation, settlement negotiation, collaborative, or you can be pro se. So essentially those are like all of your options. And two people can sit down and kind of hear that together. That's a good thing if they do. They don't always have to. You can still have it individually. And then a letter sent to the other person inviting them to hire a collaborative attorney and join the collaborative process. In North Carolina, we have a nonprofit organization called NC CAN. That's nc-can.org. And it has all of the collaborative attorneys in the state of North Carolina. So it's just informational resources about collaborative for people who are going through divorce. Has a map of all the attorneys so that both parties can find it. Like one spouse can send to the other spouse and say, hey, check out this website. I'd really like for us to do this in a way where we can be fair to each other. And so that conversation's hard at first, right? Like if you go through litigation, you're about to have a V in the middle of your name, like a boxing match. So, you don't necessarily think, oh, I should reach out to the person on the other side of the V and see if we can do this together. But that is one of the most important decisions that you will ever make, because the process that you get into for your divorce will make the difference for the rest of your life after. The whole point of divorce is to reset your life. And so if you choose the wrong process, and sometimes it's not your choice. If the other person chooses litigation, you can't do collaborative. Both people have to choose. Both parties hire an attorney. Everybody sits together in a conference room. All 4 people, a pledge is signed that says that neither one of those attorneys are going to take the other person to litigation. That creates what's called the container. That container, we just kind of name it that because it's like a safety container. You don't have to worry that whatever you say in there is going to be brought up in litigation. If you're you're never going to be cross-examined by that attorney. Everything is confidential. It's part of settlement negotiations. Most states, North Carolina does, have laws that protect settlement negotiation from being brought up in litigation. It dissuades people from leaving it because you do have to go hire another attorney if you decide that you want to go to litigation. But at any moment you can. You never give up your right to go to litigation. It just allows you to come to the table and avoid what is called the telephone game. I mean, when we were in grade school, we all played the telephone game where you whisper to the next person and it goes all the way around the room. And by the time it gets back, you said butterflies are beautiful and they come up with San Francisco is the place that I'd like to travel to, and you're like, what? Where did that even come from? That happens a lot whenever a client talks to an attorney, that attorney talks to the other attorney, the attorney then talks to their client. I mean, do we really think that the first conversation is going to go through 2 attorneys who are against each other and come back to the other spouse in whatever format was said, when you can literally just call that person that you probably had kids with and build an entire life with and say what you need to say directly? If we cut that level of communication off, things start to fall down. And what that means is more money in attorney's fees, a longer amount of time that you're going to have to spend negotiating, more issues that you're going to be exposing your children to potentially. And so, that's the point of collaborative, is to try to insulate people out of court. I mean, judges want you to do it too. They give you these long spiels before you go to litigation, or say, this is your last chance to settle. I'm never going to know as much about your life as you do. And it alleviates the docket and allows people to maintain the control over their lives and over their children and over their finances.
Yeah, I will say that the telephone game is not something that I necessarily was aware of. I was trained as a labor and employment attorney. Like everybody sits down at the table and hammers out the labor agreement. Like the CEOs of both companies or the president of the union or whatever are sitting there across from each other and know what's said. And you look at it, some of these people, my own personal case, I've taken new clients on where it's like we have an honest conversation with the other side, and I tell them, hey, this is what they're offering. And they're like, oh, I was told it was a 180. Like it was the opposite side because we go into these situations. And like you said, the boxing match in
Mm-hmm.
California, when it's marriage, they put and. I don't know if that makes it any better. So you get the
Really?
and symbol between. Yeah, you get the and symbol between them. At least on the court, the video boards outside the courtrooms, they put
Okay.
they put the and on
I
there.
was going to
Uh,
say that is very progressive for California.
yeah,